Welcome to Climate Tech Buzz, where we talk to founders, CEOs, VCs, and other experts to learn how to build and scale successful climate tech companies. Today, I'm particularly delighted to welcome Federico Cristoforoni, who I had the pleasure of meeting through the Lisbon climate community. He's the CEO and co-founder of Net Zero Insights. Net Zero is a insights and data platform for climate tech, and their platform provides access to thousands of startups, deals, and investors, allowing users to spot new innovations, trends, and deals in the rapidly evolving world of climate technology. Federico, it's so great to have you here. How are you on this rainy Lisbon day?
Hi, Shrey. I'm very, very happy to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation and excited for our conversation. So very looking forward to it.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, let's get right into it. So, we'd love for our audience to learn a little bit about both net zero, how it came to be, and definitely about your journey as a co founder along with it. Could you give us a brief intro to both?
Yeah, well, I think for Net Zero, you gave a good introduction, and the journey of the company is definitely well, an important story for me. But I think starting from my own personal background and how I became a founder might be a good way to look at it. So I have a very boring business background, so economics, finance, and these kind of things. I had the luck and privilege to get a good education and study and work abroad. So that's definitely an important part. But yeah, during these studies, I also had the chance to have some junior experiences, internships, like very very normal things, and some of them were related to startups, innovation, and entrepreneurship. That's definitely the one that has always excited me the most. I ended up in Thailand in a scale up for a bit more than 6 months, and the team doubled in my stay there. And the first, as I arrived, they were in a little apartment essentially, so I was working from the kitchen, and eventually. When I left, they had this amazing office on a skyscraper. So that was I think an important part. Then, well, I ended up in banking, always very junior roles. I think that's not necessarily the ideal fit for what I was looking for or my personality. It was an important experience, but during that time, I started to I reached out to a friend from university from Italy. I'm originally, of course, Italian, as long name and accent say out pretty clearly. I reached out to him. We were good friends. He was the smart one at university, and well, we simply wanted to do something together. Of course, we had no clues of how to build a company and very little market knowledge, zero network, and all of that. So, well, we started talking at night and weekends, like bouncing off each other ideas, and then, um, well, I think eventually we were lucky, or maybe a little bit of intuition in understanding that climate change was a big problem that was 5 years ago, 6 years ago, so it was some time ago, was before Greta Thunberg. So of course, everyone was very well aware of climate change, but was a bit less of a trendy topic, and someone, like it was a bit before the big boom. And so, yeah, we started simply to learn about the topic. I have a data back. I mean, I have a business background, but always played a lot with Excel, automation, and these kind of things. My co-founder does a bit of Python and quantitative finance. So our approach was to build an Excel and listing all the companies and the startups in the climate tech space and develop some visualizations and this kind of information. Um, of course, the first attempts were very poor. We have still live some pretty bad visualizations on Tableau and some Excel files and so on. But that was very useful because we understood the complexity of the climate innovation landscape and learned so much about the different solutions and how hard and difficult it is to classify and make it easy to access, and we started to talk and get feedback from potential customers. And so one bit at a time, the Excel became a database, then we had a web platform, and then we started to have customers, and now we have about 70 customers, investors, a team, and a lot of things. So there is still so much to do, but the progress, if you look back at the phone calls in the weekends with my co-founder, feels like a lot. Yeah, did I answer to the both sides, personal and company? I think it's very much intertwined. Yeah.
Yeah, that's abundantly clear. And I love that you started out very low tech. um,
Absolutely, yes.
so, talking about scope and definitions, climate tech is such a broad term, but I suspect a research platform would need to have a defined scope and set some boundaries. So tell us, how are you defining climate tech within the scope of your platform?
That's very central to what we are trying to do. The thing is, innovation by definition is hard to cluster and classify. New companies, new technologies mean revisiting an approach, exploring new ones or new applications. So it's very hard to draw the line. Our definition has been evolving and becoming more and more sophisticated. I'm pretty happy with the one we have right now. We um, look at the EU taxonomy for sustainable activities, which is very important and complete framework. It's not really focused on innovation, a bit more on the real world companies rather than startups. So not perfect, but the idea is that what I like really much about this is that they look at climate, so the environment more broadly, beyond the mitigation part. So mitigation means to reduce CO2 emissions or other greenhouse gases, and that's a very big and important chunk of climate tech in general. But the industry also talks about other things that fall within this umbrella. For instance, adaptation. So the part of reforestation or preventing natural disasters and climate risk. So that's a big part, but also pollution prevention and control. So the classic plastic uh, everywhere, microplastics in our food, and all of that has nothing to do with reducing CO2 emissions directly, but it's another very important aspect. Or what we do with waste. So the idea of a circular economy is also another big pillar. Similarly, we also include biodiversity, protection and restoration, water, and I think that's it. It's 6 pillars. I think I named all of them. And so this is the scope. So what's climate relevant, then how we draw the line in relation to what we decide to track or not. We have been focused very much on the venture space, so startups, which means organizations that are VC backable. So a VC fund will be interested in investing in a scalable technology or approach. Um, and yeah, so if there is one significant or explicit contribution, positive contribution to one of these 6 environmental objectives, you fall within our definition of climate tech, and then you should hopefully be on our platform.
Okay. I absolutely love that the definition goes beyond just capturing emissions. It's a systemic problem, and there's a lot of emissions baked in, so we can't really ignore adaptation and other aspects of society that are upholding the crisis. So I love that it is a broad enough definition. It's an equitable definition, but still narrow for your scope. Thank you for sharing that. So Net Zero just released a huge, fascinating report. It's called State of Climate Tech in 2023. And it's an extremely intricate report. I think it was 90 pages or something. But it is just chock full of information. It covers various dimensions and trends in climate tech by industry, funding rounds, how deals are financed, just to name a few. And it isn't even strictly VC data. It also includes corporate and government activity. So Given all that you have learned, I'm sure there were a lot of long nights with this one. Do
So
you
many.
have 2 to 3 takeaways that you think every climate tech company should be paying attention to in this report?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, a big effort from me and the team. A lot of nights, but it's something that I really enjoy. It's an appointment every quarter or every year to sit back and stop and understand what's going on, which is definitely a very complicated problem, and there are like countless ways to look at it. So we do try to build a narrative, but of course, it's aggregated data. We learn a lot, but it's only one part of the full picture. The main key takeaways, I would say it's that, well, funding went down. So investment into climate tech after a few years of growth, and 2021 and 2022 were very, very good years for climate tech investment, went down. So was harder to fundraise. It took longer to founders. So 2023 was a more complicated year for early stage and different stages organizations. The good news is though that climate tech is, everyone knows about climate tech, maybe with different definitions, but it's on everyone's mind. Big funds, small funds are looking at it, and comparatively to other industries or the VC industry in general, it's still performing very well and gaining more and more significance. So a bad year doesn't mean that it's not relevant or set to decline. I think the industry has been proving over and over that it's here to stay. There is a lot to do, and it's a big opportunity from every way you look at it. And so, yeah, funding down, but in the longer run, I'm optimistic. Um, then what happened is that VC capital became less available, or actually there is a lot of capital, but less investments, and it was harder to fundraise from VCs. Nevertheless, climate is a physical oriented kind of solution. So you need money to build them. It's not all software. Software has a role to play, but probably the most impactful part is indeed physical and requires infrastructure and similar. The takeaway and what happened. So we need capital. VC was not really always there to finance it, or it's not necessarily matching the VC mandate. What we see is that the non-dilutive capital, so debt, grants, and in general alternative ways beyond the VC, have been increasing. So the share of investment, not equity, has been increasing. We see a lot of banks stepping in. So many banks financing later stage organizations. Governments have been announcing new grants and programs in every corner of the world. There is much more to do, but all of this is coming together to form more and more complicated capital stack, or different companies need different kind of funding and different investors. So the asset of climate tech is maturing, and so is the its financial needs. Yeah, I think this was two, but
Yeah, okay, that's fair. And no shade to VCs, but they cannot be the only entity funding solutions for this. So I think it's important to recognize that. I think climate tech funding can be a lot more creative than just a traditional kind of Silicon Valley model. Would you
I
agree?
agree 100%. Yes, yes, yes. There is a lot to do, and I think most of VCs are very well aware of that, and they say as well that the system has to evolve, and they often are actually happy and value if a company raise capital from grants, or there is some kind of debt in place. Like, it's a way for them to de-risk the investment, to prove traction. So all of this is going in the right direction. The problem is the scale and the speed of both.
Yeah. And I think another plus for that is maybe VCs can see that there's a need in the ecosystem for that solution if multiple entities are willing to support an initiative. So maybe a good sign for long-term growth as well. That's not always an indicator, but I think it provides more confidence at least.
I agree.
So let's talk about your audience then, your users. So your platform caters to investors, corporates, researchers, and business developers, from what I understand. So is there a bespoke experience for each of these personas, and how does a typical user interact with the platform? What sort of questions or problems do they come to it with?
Right. So indeed, the different users have different needs, but we are a data platform and a market intelligence platform. If I have to simplify the way to use it, it's either to find opportunities. For an investor, it's to find an investment opportunity or to make sure that you find the best investment opportunity. For a corporate, is about finding new suppliers or innovation partners. For uh, um, business developer or a service provider, is to find potential customers. So find things is one big use case. Then the other aspect is the research. So I want to understand a space, like how much capital is going into one specific solution, how many investors are there, how many companies, what's the maturity of the market. And that's another aspect. And then finally, once you have identified the areas of interest and you found the relevant players, you want to keep um, track of new players coming in or the growth of players. So we also have help to keep track simply by maintaining the database and setting up notifications and similar reports and features.
Wonderful. Um, so let's kind of switch gears a little bit and talk
Yeah.
about go to market and some of those topics. So I noticed that Net Zero focuses a lot on partnerships and it takes a collaborative approach to sharing information. I've noticed this in marketing materials as well. So was this a strategy that emerged organically? Was it deliberate from the start? Who are some of the entities you partner with generally? What are your shared goals?
Yeah, I think the narrative in the climate innovation ecosystem is that collaboration is essential for the growth of the ecosystem. As we said, it's a systemic problem, a very complicated one, and sharing resources and once there is a shared objective and it makes sense for all the parties involved, uh, might increase the chances of achieving the goal cheaper and more effectively and find a better solution. So that's the narrative, and I think it's a powerful and important one. In my personal experience as a founder or as Net Zero, you mentioned our marketing strategy. We are a data provider, and having data doesn't make you an expert over anything. So part of building our reputation, research, and brand is to work with prospects, so potential customers, big
Sure.
names, big researchers, and similar, but also to get inputs and insights from the thought leaders. It can be policymakers, it can be investors, big corporates, or very successful companies that did it right, raised a lot of money, have a lot of customers and good products. That's also very insightful and powerful to grow our reputation. So that's been part of the strategy. So to go beyond our data and uh, get in touch with the ecosystem when relevant to give more depth to our data and capabilities.
Okay, love that. Yeah, and it's also about working with the people who your potential customers trust too, right? So you can be in their space, and it's a more natural fit. Um,
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good way to put it. Yes, that was important, I think. To
Wonderful.
learn also from them directly, and it's also an easier way to reach out to prospects, right? If you bring value, um, make them pass or be perceived as as thought leaders. That's very flattering, and people are usually tend to be willing to talk to you or to work with you if you put it in that light rather than a lot of cold emails, which are still very important. But
It's part of the strategy, but the
exactly,
that kind of outbound, it cannot be the entire strategy anymore. Absolutely. Um, so our listeners are often interested in learning about go-to-market and growth strategies for
yeah.
themselves. So beyond partnerships, what has been successful for Net Zero in reaching your audience? What has helped you grow and scale?
Yeah, so essentially we have been bootstrapping for a couple of years. We went from zero to version one of the product with our own resources and network. And I think without being able to get feedback from prospects, like this kind of information is missing, this is useful for doing X, Y, or Z, uh, or not. The not part is probably the most useful one. Was essential for us to grow our offering, and now we are privileged enough to do this with amazing customers. There are fantastic funds and very well-known brands and corporates that work with us, and I try to spend as much time as possible with them to grow the relationship, but also to understand how to improve the product and the way we communicate it, get other customers. So that's the loop that I guess it's uh, applicable to every business, but in my experience was very important. Apart from that, yeah, I think our investors played a crucial role in financing our growth. We were very lucky to find uh, the perfect fit, someone that understands our business, who sees the potential, and as always be there to support us and guide us through through the growth of the company. So I think that was invaluable. Um, and then, yeah, I think also the team components. So I think it was a good decision to come to Lisbon. It's easy to attract talent in Lisbon. Like people from everywhere in the world are very happy to come here. They fantasize about, go surfing. I mean, they do go surfing, but uh, I don't do that much, unfortunately. But the team does, and that's a good thing. And I think also the fact of having a vision in relation to climate innovation, learning, and reducing emissions and supporting the net zero transition has been an important enabler to recruit people, to reach out to partners, customers, and so on. So all these things combined together with a lot of so much hard work and determination um, is is paying off.
That's great. And is your entire team in Lisbon, or are you spread out?
Yeah, that's a good question. So a part of the team is in Lisbon. So we were born during COVID, essentially. We moved to Lisbon and quit our jobs 2 months after COVID happened. So we were born, yes, perfect timing. But we were born as a remote company. So we had collaborators in Asia, the US, the rest of Europe, Africa. So it's very international, which is something I'm very proud. It's very exciting to mix things up and work with clever people around the world. And then after COVID happened, Lisbon became a bit more of the HQ. So especially the more senior and strategic profiles, we tend to bring in. It's not always true. We have a lot of important team members that don't want to come to Lisbon, are very happy where they are, and that works as well.
Yeah, I like that. I think COVID definitely brought out I mean, for all the horrible things that happen, I think the one of the good things was being able to attract talent wherever they are, and I think that also leads to more equitable hiring practices in the process. And talking about climate companies, that I think that's an element that just has to be baked into it. So I love that you're approaching it that way, even though you may have been forced to.
Yeah, we were kind of forced, but I think it's an important, yeah. I mean, we have all upgraded our work requirements and the flexibility, and but at the same time, you have definitely a way broader pool of talent to pick from, and so yeah, it's maybe
Absolutely.
also more, yeah, better, more chances and better, yeah. I think it contributes to what you said as well.
Great. So, what's next for the Net Zero team? What are some of the priorities for the coming year?
Yeah, well, so as I mentioned, with the insights from the state of climate tech and our sense and feeling, the market is evolving in different ways. There are more solutions, more kind of investors, more players, and as the market is maturing, more and more large players, so large PE funds or asset managers, but also infrastructure developers, corporates, banks. So all of these people are putting more and more attention to the next solutions, the new companies that are slowly or faster approaching the market. That means that well, also our offering is going to evolve. So from being very focused on venture, we are evolving beyond that. So the idea and the vision is to go from lab to market. That means from the patents and what's going on in academia and universities down to the big commercial, like the factories to be produced, and the financing, and the revenues, and the market shares, and the public markets. So the idea is to cover the entire value chain from different perspectives, so that small and large players can have one reference point to see what's going on uh, consistently, and rely on our information. So that, of course, is very exciting for us, because, well, it enhances our understanding of the market, and also I think the impact that our data and work can have. One part is financing important innovation, for sure, that's very important, but also the deployment of these solutions, and see how they behave and are perceived in real market conditions. I think it's very fascinating and crucial for actually transition to a low carbon economy. So yeah, that's what we are trying to build. There's going to be a lot of work to get there, and in order to get there, we are also fundraising again. So we are looking for strategic investors to help us finance and uh, set the right directions for the growth of the company.
Oh, busy year.
It's, yeah, every year has been busy, but
As
maybe
long as it's
yes, even
moving in
more
the right
busy.
direction.
Looks like, yeah. We are confident. We are very excited to get all of this done.
That's wonderful. Well, on that really positive note, it's been wonderful getting to know more about you, Federico, and Net Zero Insights. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us, and we wish you and the Net Zero team all the very best. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. It's been really a pleasure to chat. Have a good day.
You too.